In this lesson, we're going to solve equations of this form by factoring, but before we do so, we're going to practice factoring some trinomials. So part A, we have 5a squared plus 8a plus 3. So I'm going to set up a t-chart. And again, the little phrase that I have to help us remember how this works is it goes up and down left, up and down right, crisscross adds to the middle, and your answer is left to right. When we do up and down left, we're asking ourselves what times what makes 5a squared. So go ahead and fill it in, 5a times a. Now we're going to do up and down right. So we're going to go what times what makes 3, and so we know we're going to use 1 and 3. The question is, do we put the 1 here and the 3 here? Or do we put the 3 up top and the 1 on the bottom? And so to answer that, you need to glance at that middle term. We're trying to crisscross and combine terms to get 8a. So that means we want to put the 3 on top, because when we crisscross, you get 5a, and when you multiply these, you get 3a. 3a and 5a will combine to make 8a by making these both positive. So then we go back and we put the signs on the numbers on the right. So our answer goes from left to right. So our answer is going to be 5a plus 3 times a plus 1. And there's our final answer. Okay, this next example, we're going to go up and down left. So we have 5x times x makes 5x squared. Now we have up and down right. So we need to figure out what multiplies to 6. You have 1 and 6, 2 and 3. So if we use the 1 and 6, it's not going to work, because if we put the 1 here and the 6 here, that would make 30 and that would make 1, which won't combine to 17. If we put the 6 on top and the 1 on the bottom, we'd get 6x and 5x, and that would combine to 11, not 17. So that means we need to use the 2 and the 3. It's just a matter of where do we put the 2 and where do we put the 3. So I put the 3 on the bottom, the 2 on the top, because this multiplies to 15x, and these guys multiply to 2x. 2x and 15x will combine to negative 17x if we make them both negative. Once you have your signs, you're going to put them back in on the right side. So this negative goes right there, and this negative will go right here on the 3. And finally, just double check, do these numbers multiply to this positive 6? And they do, so we are good. Our answer goes from left to right, so let's go ahead and write it out. Our final answer is 5x minus 2 times x minus 3. So we're going to start it off up and down left. Next, we're going to do up and down right. So we have 1 times 7. We just need to figure out, do we put the 7 on top or the 7 on the bottom? Go ahead and glance at that middle term because of the 20. We want to put the 7 on the bottom. And again, the reason why is these multiply to 21x, and these guys multiply to 1x. We can combine 21x and 1x to make positive 20x by just making this 1 negative. So now that we have the signs, we're going to put the negative back up here, and this positive will go in front of the 7. And remember, your answer goes from left to right. So let's go ahead and write it out. So we get 3x minus 1 times x plus 7. For this problem, we could still use the t-chart, but I wanted to recognize the fact that this is a difference of squares problem. So if you have anything of the form x squared minus a squared, it factors using a pattern x plus a times x minus a. So you can see right here, although it doesn't look exactly like x squared minus a squared, you do have a difference of squares. The left side could be written as 6m quantity squared, and the right side could be 1 squared. So you do have a difference of squares, and you can use the pattern. So since 6m times 6m makes 36m squared, that's what we're going to put right here and here. And 1 squared is 1, so we're going to do plus 1 minus 1. And here's our final answer, 6m plus 1, 6m minus 1. For part E, we have the same situation. We have a difference of squares. Right here we have 3x quantity squared, and right here we have 8 squared. So we're going to use our difference of squares pattern. So what you do is you fill in your 3x, and next with your pattern you're going to go plus 8 minus 8. So here's our final answer, 3x plus 8 and 3x minus 8. For this problem, we're going to go back to a t-chart because we have a trinomial. So I want to think up and down left, what would multiply to make 4n squared? And then up and down right, what will multiply to make 25? So one thing to keep in mind is 4n squared is the same as 2n quantity squared. And 25 is the same as 5 squared. So I'm thinking we're probably using that factor pattern. So when you crisscross, you get 10n for both terms, which does combine to 20n. So if we keep everything positive, it works out. You get 2n plus 5 times 2n plus 5, which is the same as 2n plus 5 quantity squared. This last factoring example, you'll notice it's only 2 terms, not 3. So I'm glancing at it and I'm noticing we're going to use a GCF, the greatest common factor. So what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, what do both terms have in common that we can factor to the front? and they both have a 5a. So if we factor out 5a, you're left with a minus 4. Then there's our answer. Next, we're going to solve the equation by factoring. So we have our expression already equal to 0 in this case. If you'll notice on the left side, we have a difference of squares. So we're going to go ahead and factor this. So we're going to use 7x times 7x makes 49x squared, and 1 times 1 makes 1. We're going to go plus 1 minus 1. At this point, using the zero product property, we're going to set both of these equal to 0. Finally, to solve this, we're going to subtract 1 and divide by 7. And let's do the same thing on this side. We're going to add 1 and then divide by 7. So we end up getting -1/7 and +1/7. For this next example, we're going to factor using a t-chart. And again, when you just kind of glance at this and we do up and down left, you can see that you're going to use 5x times 5x. If we go up and down right, we're going to use 2 times 2. And again, this works out great because this makes 10x, this makes 10x, and those combine to 20x. So let's go ahead and write out our factored form. And now we can apply the zero product property. We can set these both equal to 0. And I'm not going to write it twice because it's the same thing, but let's go ahead and subtract 2 and divide by 5. So you end up getting x equals -2/5. Okay, to solve this last problem, we're going to factor using a t-chart. We're going to go up and down left. So we're going to use 3a times a. Next, we're going to do up and down right. So I want to use 2 times 4. Again, it's a matter of where to put the 4 and where to put the 2. If we put the 4 right here, that makes 12. So that's probably going to work. We need 2a and 12a to combine to make 10a. So that means we're going to make this 2a negative. And let's put the signs back into the problem. So we're going to put the negative up here and the positive right there. Remember, your answer goes from left to right. Okay, so I have it written out. You have 3a minus 2 times a plus 4 equals 0. Using the zero product property, we're going to set them both equal to 0 and solve. So right here, we're going to add 2 and divide by 3. And over here, you get a equals -4. So our final answers are -4 and 2/3.